Cooleg is an interesting idea. On one side, it's a place of higher education, where you can receive a specialized education from a professional professor, instead of a jack-of-all-trades teacher that have to learn a smidge of everything to teach younger kids the basic stuff, like dodgeball and playing the recorder, or 2 plus 2. On the other hand, Cooleg is a place for people to learn about themselves and become the person they want to be, like, part of the time at least. I went to IUPUI, and Cooleg was, for me, probably one of the best times of my life. Sure, I might not have had a job, or been making YouTube videos, or even streaming, and sure, I might have had a diet of ramen for most of my time there, but there was something special about it. Like, for starters, I figured out that I was a trans woman while I was at Cooleg. This is probably a topic for a different video, so I'll keep this part short, but figuring myself and my identity out was probably one of the best things to have happened to me. And I pretty much have my time at Cooleg to thank for it, by allowing me to try new things and being supported by my friends. Speaking of friends, that's another great thing about Cooleg, making friends. In high school, you're essentially forced into being friends with people that are similar to you. Well, maybe that was just my high school, where my class had like 101 students in it, but still. If you had an interest in games, you were labeled as a nerd and had to hang out with other kids. Unless it was COD. Then you were probably really into basketball or pigskin and being a jerk. Or in other words, a jock. Meanwhile, in Cooleg, there are clubs dedicated to the more nuanced interests, filled with other students that share that interest. You like anime? There's a club for that. You vaguely interested in cosplay? There's a club for that. Heck, they'll teach you how to make stuff in said club, because it's fun being able to hang out and cosplay. Want to play games for fun? There's a club for that. Want to play games for not fun? There's also a club for that. I think you get the picture now. There's a lot of clubs, and you're not forced into being in just one. You don't have to be in any either. If that's more your style, you know, you do you. The point is, I made loads of friends at Cooleg, and I still chat with them occasionally. Heck, I hang out with 2 of my closer friends every Sunday to play games, if I don't have work. Meanwhile, I can pass by a close friend from high school at my local Walmart or BMV, and they don't even recognize me, which, thinking back, might have been because of my transition of sorts. Probably. Anyway, Cooleg is pretty cool for another reason. That being the classes. There are loads of classes you can take at Cooleg catering to your interests. I studied Japanese for 3.5 years simply because I love anime in Japan. I took a self-defense course for 1 semester because I thought it would be cool, which it was. But I also didn't want to take it more than a semester because I also needed to get credits for my major. Speaking of major, you want to know what I majored in? Media Arts and Sciences. It's super cool. Basically, whatever you could want to do that involves media, this covered it. Web design, coding, script writing, game design, 2D art, 3D modeling, sound design, you name it, it's probably a thing. I specialized in game development because I wanted to do concept art for video games, and look at me now. I'm making videos on YouTube, streaming on Twitch, trying to make an indie game, while also working a part-time job now. Am I stretching myself a little too thin? Maybe burning the theoretical candle at both ends? Yeah, probably. Going back to classes again for a second, there was one course I took that I absolutely regret taking. Creative Concept Development. You'd think, based on the title, that it'd be about creative concepts and developing said concepts, right? Well, the course professor left out a key word in the title and description. Marketing. It was a course all about developing a product that the populace could want, which granted sounds useful, but that was nothing like what I was wanting at the time because, well, I wanted to be a concept artist. It was so boring and disappointing towards my expectations that I kind of let it slide, and I ended up with a B, I think. The course I was wanting went by a different name. It was far more insightful when I actually took it. Thinking sideways. Basically, everything that creative concept development wasn't, thinking sideways was. Taught me how to be more creative than I already was, like exponentially. How? Through the PB&J method. To keep this short, you essentially take two clashing elements, things that wouldn't normally work, and like the burger experiments in that one food theory showed, blended aspects of those clashing elements together to create something that works. For example, look at this treant boss I made during that course. Not too shabby, right? Well, would you have guessed that some of the elements that went into it was king and puppeteer? On top of like some older design for him. I gave it a little king scepter, a crown-like feathery part on the mask, and a regal looking face, complete with a regal beard. And from the puppeteer I had the mask and the scepter act like a marionette for one of the boss's attacks. Yep, I still like this boss idea. There were a couple other classes that I took that I liked. For example, the creature course. We learned about how different creatures in media worked in their lore, on top of learning interesting things about Earth's creatures, and create our own creatures using various tools, like stretch and shrink and hybrids and such. Super useful for creating your own worlds. Take a look at some of these creatures I designed for it. There was also the comic course, where we learned the proper comic creation etiquette, like flow and such. We also got to make our own comic books for the final. It was super fun, and the best part was that anyone could participate, because artistic talent was never a necessity for good storytelling, according to the professor of this course, which happened to be the same professor that taught the creature course. He also taught another course that I'm going to mention here. The video game history course. Super cool class for learning about, well, the history of video games. From the ancient board games to the video game Crash and much more. Really cool course if you're ever interested in that kind of stuff. There was a couple of other courses that I took where we actually made games and uploaded them to itch.io, which I won't link in the description because they were smidge embarrassing. And a course where I got to work with AR tech. But I figured that I've been rambling enough at this point. Cooleg is cool, and I'll always look back at it fondly. I made loads of friends, discovered who I really was, took loads of interesting and fun courses while I was there. And best of all, it was completely free because I had a couple scholarships and good grades. Thanks for watching this, it really means a lot. I should clarify, I did graduate, I just didn't really cover the graduation part in this because, well, the Backstreet Boy reunion tour was wrecking the world the year I graduated, so festivities was at a minimum. Another thing, I've been thinking of creating a tribute to Professor Powers, the professor that taught all those interesting classes. Not the Thinking Sideways class, but the other ones. Sometime in the future in my Minecraft world. I feel like you'll like it, but that won't be coming for a little while, so if you're interested in seeing that when I finally make it, consider subscribing. Also, maybe check out the description. Anyways, I think this video's been going on long enough, so see you next time. Okay, bye.